Arkansas has just passed a new law called Connect Arkansas, and sponsored by a friend of mine down there, John Paul Capps. The bill would create a public-private partnership aimed at increasing the broadband coverage for health, industry, education, and general economic development. I would like to ask about the Kentucky program and how much can we learn from what's going on in Kentucky, and how successful has the Kentucky program been?
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Chairman, I'm glad to be able to tell you that we have been working hand in hand with folks in Arkansas to help develop the legislation that was passed and continue to work with them on the creation of the public-private partnership. The examples and the model that we've developed in Kentucky originally is highly transferable to every state in the nation.
Are other states doing it?
Yes, sir.
About how many?
Well, our Connected Nation, our company, is engaged on various levels with probably a dozen different states, and they range across the board in terms of size and geography.
Should there be a national level, or does this work better at the state level?
I think that there is a good opportunity in the Broadband Data Development Act that the Chairman mentioned earlier to empower states, for the federal government to empower states to develop and implement these types of initiatives. I think it's very important that this is a state-based effort, but states need more impetus right now to as Senator McCaskill said, to hurry up and get something done.
As I understand it, you see an increase in capital investment, you see a growth in broadband availability around the state, and you see distribution of computers to underprivileged children in underserved communities, which I think is great. But what are the big obstacles out there? What should Arkansas have to look forward to in terms of obstacles that we have to overcome?
I think a significant obstacle in the bigger picture of this type of discussion is the fact that we need to always consider the demand side of the equation. It is not a field of dreams prospect where we can solve all of our nation's ills by technology-based ills by just building the infrastructure. We have to focus, whether it's Arkansas, Kentucky, or California, no matter the state, we have to focus on demand creation, demand aggregation type efforts. We have done that through our e-community leadership teams, where we are at the very grassroots of each of our counties working to raise the awareness of the importance of technology and why parents should provide their children with an internet connected computer for doing homework and so forth, and gathering healthcare type information. And it's those basic grassroots awareness building efforts that are so important in these types of efforts.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Senator Stevens, I want to thank you for holding the hearing today, and also thank our witnesses for their testimony and input on how we can improve an already lightning fast rollout of advanced telecommunication services, including broadband, that we are currently experiencing here in the United States. And I would say, just preface it by saying that a lot of Americans are enjoying the benefits of these types of internet connections that can enhance our quality of life in terms of education, entertainment, healthcare, business, but there's more work that can be done in getting that broadband access into the farthest reaches of our country, and many of those areas are in places like my home state of South Dakota. And I know that it's got to be a continued or a combined effort at state, local, and federal levels of government, along with private industry. So we're going to have to remain flexible in terms of deployment policies and programs, as well as technology, because I don't think there is a one-size-fits-all approach to this effort. But it is important to remember that it's worth the effort. Broadband deployment means better jobs, it means better education and better quality of life, and so I look forward to working with the members of this committee and other stakeholders as we tackle the issue. Mr. Mefford, in your testimony you mentioned the fact that in Kentucky you had to encourage both supply and demand for broadband services. I want to highlight that point because I think in some rural areas we need to focus on stimulating demand for broadband as well, and need to ensure that Americans living in rural areas understand the possible benefits in business, healthcare, and education that comes from ordering that broadband connection. Can you expand a little bit on that point and explain how you stimulated demand in Kentucky?
Yes, sir. Senator Thune, thank you for the question, and I'm happy to expand on that. We have created in each of the 120 counties in Kentucky local leadership teams that we call e-community leadership teams. These leadership teams are representative of a cross-section of each local community, and so we have leaders at one table from local government, education, healthcare, business and industry, ag, tourism, community development organizations. All these people literally sitting around the same table, and we take them through a process where we first ask, how are you using technology today in this community, in this sector? How are you using technology? And then we do a visioning type exercise. How could you better use technology that's existing and that will become available in the near future? And we give them examples of what other similar communities and sectors are doing around the country and, in fact, around the world. And then we give them a tactical plan that says, here are the things you need to do to bridge that gap. Here's where you say you want to be, and here's where you need to be. Now, the practical realities that have come out of that process, one example is in healthcare. We had one very rural county in eastern Kentucky where those folks sitting around the table, you had a public health organization that said, well, we really would like to get into e-health somehow. Telemedicine is where we would like to focus. And the local community college said, well, that's a piece of curriculum that we've been interested in developing, so let's partner together and make these initial investments. Well, we had from the business and industry sector a local coal operator present for that discussion, and he said, well, if you develop a telehealth unit, we can literally roll that unit up to the top of the hill, and we can do health screenings and things like that for my employees. That happened, and enough time has now passed where we now know that business's health insurance rates have declined, and so have absenteeism rates. And so I give that as an example of a real life observation of how that demand side activity, how it works and how it provides dramatic results for a variety of sectors. But at the same time, as the providers see that kind of demand creation happening, they are more interested, again, in a market-driven type way, they're more interested in making more investments in that community because bandwidth needs are expanding and use has increased.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm glad Senator Thune brought up the matter of population density. The top 5 countries are Denmark, Netherlands, Korea, Switzerland, and Iceland. They're all densely populated, smaller in acreage than the United States. That's one of the problems. But my question is, whenever people give speeches in Washington, they oftentimes use the word superpower to describe the United States. So I presume an element of pride is involved. But I want to go beyond pride. What impact do these statistics have on the quality of life of Americans, on employment, unemployment, on education levels, and such? Is it at a dangerous level? Should we be concerned? Or is this what we can expect?
I would address it to say, in Kentucky, it has made all the difference in the world for these less densely populated areas particularly. And so when you're talking about our ability to compete beyond our metropolitan areas, that is where having this infrastructure in place is, in my opinion, critical. And so as we've seen in Kentucky, we have kids who had left and taken jobs in other places have now come back to Kentucky.